Hello, everyone. I want to welcome all of you to the fourth edition of UI UX Nairobi. We will begin in 1 minute, but even as we begin, I'd encourage you to I'll welcome you to check share your details on, I'm going to be posting just now, the doc that allows us to be able to introduce ourselves. That's been prepared by Michael Kitkai. So just a moment as I do so. There you go. Right, so I believe you should have it now. So I welcome you to introduce yourself in the doc. Again, one of the reasons why we have this meetup, again, for everyone who is joining, welcome to the fourth edition of the UI UX Nairobi meetup. The reason why we have this meetup is to allow us to connect more than just learning, more than just getting new ideas. One of the main reasons why we have the meetup is to allow us to connect with each other, to be able to form connections that are going to last more than the 1.5 hours that we're going to be spending here. So I encourage you to add your name, your where you work, what you do, and most importantly, your LinkedIn. The reason we are adding that is so that you, in case you want to reach out to someone who you saw in there, you can reach out to them and actually connect with them. And even if you don't have anything to say right away, you probably are going to connect later. And so I encourage you to go to the link. The link is in the chat. Go to introduce yourself, just give us a brief introduction of who you are. And then basically, but once you post the link, I encourage you to add a space so that it actually is a link, so that someone can be able to just quickly click on it and go to your profile and create a connection. Again, the reason why we do this, the reason why this meetup exists is to allow us in the product design fields to connect with one another and to interact, to gain a level of camaraderie, even as we advance our own careers. So please go and register even as we begin. All right, so I'd like to first request confirmation that you can be able to see my screen and that it reads UI UX Nairobi meetup number 4. Hello. Awesome. Thank you very much. Thank you, Angoy. All right. So as we continue adding those introductions in there, please make sure you don't leave yourself. It's the opportunity to connect with other people within the product design field. So as we begin, I'd like to first mention who we are as a meetup. But before we do so, let me just give you a lay of the land. What we're doing right now is introductions. Then I'm going to talk about the event, UI UX Nairobi meetup, who we are, what we do. Then we're going to have the mini talk. That basically is probably what you already saw in coming to the meetup. Then we're going to have discussions and Q&A. Now, who are we? Who is UI UX Nairobi? It's a meetup that allows us to connect. So we are a group of professionals who come together basically to learn from each other. We are professionals in the product design field and UI UX enthusiasts in Kenya and beyond. So even if you're not from Kenya, you're welcome to join. But the reason why we focus specifically on Kenya is because there's a gap for that within them. There's a gap for a community that brings people together, allows them to connect. And our main goal, our main reason for being here is to connect with one another, to share ideas and improve one another. And again, in connecting, there are many ways that we do so, and I'm going to talk about them as we proceed. Then when do we meet? The main way that we connect is through this meetup. It's held every month on the second Wednesday of every month at 5:30. So that's going to happen into perpetuity. Again, depending on the level, the number of people who come show up to the meetup, just as you have, which is awesome. It's going to encourage us to continue doing it. Again, so you will show your support for whatever is going on is something that you like by showing up. And so I encourage you to continue showing up, and we'll continue doing it. And that's the goal. As long as the community is gaining value from this, then we'll continue doing it into the future. And so I thank you for showing up and showing you that is actually giving you value. So the main way that we connect right now is Meetup, is online. The main way that we do the Meetup is online. And we may probably change that model going to the future. As things ease off, we may probably do some physical events, but the beauty of doing online events is that anyone from anywhere, even outside the country, can be able to join and connect with everyone else. So that's that. So in case you are interested in participating a bit deeper in the event, other than just doing the meetup, you can join the Discord server. The Discord server is growing. We are almost at, I believe we are around 70 right now. And I'm posting the link to the Discord link to invite you in there. You can join the Discord server and look at the different places. One of the places that probably may interest you, especially if you're a beginner and you're looking for jobs, there's a job section that is fairly updated. And there are a number of discussions going on in there. There's a complaint that was made the other day that we don't have enough people, we don't have enough topics being talked about in UX research, and we're going to be changing that. One of the things that we'd like to do in the future is have more people both talking about and engaging with the subject of UX research. So if you're a UX researcher, you're welcome, and you should feel part of the community. But we also have a specific channel within the Discord community that specifically focuses on UX research. Now, the other thing is, in case you are interested in knowing when the next event is happening, we're still trying to figure out the best way of doing this, but the way that has been working is having that you can visit uiuxnairobi.co.ke. I've just posted the link. And probably one of my contacts, my LinkedIn profile is at the very top. So mine and Kit Kai's contacts at the very top of the doc that we mentioned. And so I encourage you to go and click on that link and connect with me, because most of the times it's either me or Kitikai that are going to be posting, and others that join along. Again, it's not just me and Kitikai, but our hope is that everyone in the community can go to contribute. But if you want to know when the next event is happening, that's the best way to do so. So go view the next event at uiuxnairobi.co.ke, or connect with me or Michael or any of the other people that are going to be publicizing the events. So if you're connected, you get a chance to know when the next one is happening. And then you can view the notes of what happened in the past, both right now we are streaming on YouTube. This is something we're trying out. We'll see how it works. Again, for the sake of this remaining, the continuity of this into the future. And so if you miss the meetup, you could go watch it there or share it with someone who you think may be useful too. But at the same time, if you want to see what past events were there, go to the YouTube channel, and specifically, we also post the videos on uiuxnairobi.co.ke/events. And that actually it's also the main page. And you'll find it useful. You may find useful stuff in there. So we run this meetup on our free time. And so we, again, as I mentioned, it's not just me or Kitikai, there are a number of other people who are helping out. but we all do this in our free time. We do normal UX jobs and otherwise. And so I would encourage anyone who would like to assist. And I'm really, it's awesome that I've been receiving requests for assistance, and some people want to contribute. And so, okay, is anyone else experiencing problems in the with audio? Please confirm that you have. Okay, good, thank you. All right, someone has mentioned that the Discord is expired. I'll actually correct that when we move on to the speaker. So just stay tuned for that. I'll add a new link in there. All right. So as I mentioned, we run this meetup in our free time, and so if you would want to assist, it would be really appreciated. And there are many ways that you can help. One is organizing the event, or sort of hosting the event, being like a moderator, like what I'm doing now. In the past, we've had a number of people moderating, and we'd hope to have more and more moderators going into the future. And so that's one. The other would be graphics design, posters, any work that relates to promoting the event. Doing a case study presentation. We are trying to line up a number of them into the future that would allow for not just having a mini talk, but also having someone talk about giving a case study presentation that allows them to probably show their work. It's both useful to the community in terms of them seeing other people's work and what they're doing, but also to the person presenting, because it will allow them to present and learn a bit of presentation and also get their name out there. So giving a presentation, giving a mini talk. All right, please complain on the chat. I'm watching it. If you're having any challenges with audio, I will adjust that if necessary. Okay, so you can also help in moderating your UX Discord server and other ways. You probably have an idea of something we can do as a community that would make it more robust. Please shoot us an email at hi@uxnairobi.co.ke, and we'll have a discussion on what we can do to make it better. All right, so specifically, I'd like to give a few shout outs to people who have helped to make this event a success. First is David, our speaker today. The other is John, who designed the poster that I've posted within LinkedIn, and other people have posted it as well. We have Gertrude, who is doing the summary of today's event on our website. And then we have Michael and Vivian, who have helped to organize both this meetup and past meetups. I want to really appreciate you guys for all the support that you provided within the community. Again, it's a community of all of us helping to making the product design world, specifically in Kenya, much stronger. So I'd like to talk about events that are coming in the future. So I specifically have a few that I have in mind. And if anyone has any other, you can probably unmute yourself. After I'm done reading these, you can unmute yourself and you can add them to our list here. So the first is Interaction 22, our virtual design conference. It's an Interaction Design Conference happening from the 2nd to the 4th of March, 2022. Just Google it, you'll find it's one of the first things you'll find in the search results. The other one is AXCON. It's an accessibility conference that is for free, and it's happening on the 15th, 17th of March this year. And then we have the UX Vienna meetup. Now I promote this meetup because it's personally helped me a lot when I started doing when I started learning UX. It's the first meetup that I started interacting with, and I encourage you to get in there. So just Google UX Vienna. It's an online meetup that happens every second Tuesday of the month at 9 p.m. So does anyone have any other event they'd like us to add to the list? You can either unmute yourself or paste the event on the chat. Again, I'll try to share the links to the meetups, but as I've mentioned, please, a fast way of get there is just like Googling the name of the Interaction 22, AXCON, and UX Vienna. But I'll try to post the links to the meetup. as we go. Anyone else have an event that is coming up that they would like to share with the community? All right. All right, so let's move on to the next. There are job opportunities. Now, again, I think there's one more that I probably haven't posted here that has been mentioned a number of times by guys from Safaricom, but this is UX. There's a UX designer job that I came across from someone within, actually from the UX Vienna meetup, that you may be interested in. It's fully remote. I'm pasting the link to this. You can go read the job description there. I don't have direct connection with it, but I feel like someone may benefit from it from here. So I've posted the link there. Safaricom, I believe, are also constantly looking for UX designers. Probably you can correct me. That's from Safaricom, Moneki, if that's correct or not.
I think you're not wrong. We have been recruiting, so keep checking the portal and trying your luck.
Right, awesome. If someone can post the link to the portal to make it easy for whoever would want to find it, please do. Awesome. So does anyone else have any open opportunities that they would like to share with the community? Please share them. Again, you will help someone today, someone will post a link that you'll get a job to. So please feel free, especially links that you are personally connected with that may not be publicly available, because some of those are like the ones which people then would get a higher advantage when applying for them. I suspect silence means no. Yes, no? All righty. Let's suspect that it means no. If you do have any, please post. Oh, nice. Michael, you've posted. Do you want to talk about it?
Not really. It's pretty self-explanatory, but ICRC are looking for a senior UX designer. So if you feel like you have what it takes, there's the link, there's the description and all the requirement. You can apply. The deadline is, I think, February 18th. So you have enough time to polish up your portfolio, cover letter and everything. Yeah, that's it.
Do you have direct connections with the job? Can you refer someone? Someone who's saying can someone refer us, because it's hard to get in?
Actually, not really, because I was also tagged in. So
okay.
Yeah.
Cool. No problem. No problem. Actually, I would encourage anyone who wants to, who is seeking a level of connection. Again, it's not so easy for you to just be referred from the thin air. The reason why we have the links for the different social media links on the doc that I shared, and probably Kai, you can share it again, is so that you can be able to connect with people who you can, by forming a relationship with someone. Again, that initial relationship that you form would make them be first in mind, but like have you as first in mind when a new opportunity comes up. So please connect with them on LinkedIn, follow them, like chat with them, create connections, arrange meetings with them, because that then will create the opportunity for you to be referred easily as compared to just being referred just on the general sense. So I encourage you, one of the ways that you can be able to create, get an opportunity getting in. Yes, I agree, Mercy, that it's difficult to get in. But again, once you start having some of those connections, even if they don't necessarily refer you to the job, they will sort of like give you a bit of an edge, probably advise you on what's the thing you need to look out for when applying to that particular company. So specifically, if you're interested in Safaricom, there are a bunch of guys from Safaricom here. And again, there are a lot of us working in different areas. Just ping us and you will find advice from us. And I continue encouraging you, if you have not yet added any your bio or your basic info on the doc, please do. I feel like it's something that would be useful it would be useful to all of us when we share our information that way. All right. So just a moment. So there's a link again. It is. I've just posted it again, just in case you're looking for it. Right, so I'd like to move on, unless there's someone else. Actually, no, I think I missed something. Mumbe, do you want to talk about the opportunity in Quora?
Okay, yeah, sure. So yeah, Quora, where I currently work, is looking for a senior UI/UX designer. And yes, I am a direct link. So yeah, you can hit me up on LinkedIn and see how we can forward like the application.
Awesome, thank you, Mumbe. Ariga, you mentioned that Kiape hiring. Please talk about it.
Yeah, hi guys.
Hi.
I'm Joshua. Basically, on our company, we're also recruiting for a senior UX designer. So yeah, if you can be interested in that, we can touch base.
Right. The guys can ping you on the links you provided, right?
Okay. Yeah. Cool.
Okay. But if there's a link as well, you can probably post it. If one exists, yeah.
Okay.
Though generally, I found that it's better if a link doesn't exist, because it means that you probably would have you're dealing with a smaller pool. So it's okay if there's no link. It's actually a better thing, I guess, for the community. But again, if one exists, please share. Awesome. Anyone else before I close that chapter? Oh, I shared the link to just one person. Sorry, let me share it to everyone. There you go. Thank you, Michael. Yes, I did it as well. All right. Anyone else who has any positions that they'd like to talk about? Yes, no, maybe. I don't know. Can you repeat the question? Right, let's move on. Someone probably understood the reference. Nice. All right, so I'd like us to get into the gist of why we came. We want to talk about designers and developers and how we can be able to maximize value to business. I believe this is a topic that we most definitely need to hear, because part of the challenge that we have is that sometimes designers live in their silos. An interesting anecdote from a meetup I attended. Actually, sorry, I'm going to reference this a lot, but the UX Vienna meetup. Someone mentioned that they deal. They do not like dealing with developers at all. They actually just do the designs and expect the developers to do whatever they need, and they don't really listen to what developers say, whether it's technically difficult or not. And I felt that probably is not the best approach, but hey, that's the way they do it. But we probably want to hear, is that the best approach, where you close yourself up and say, you designers go sort yourselves up, you developers go sort yourselves out. I'm going to design what's best for the user and not care about any technical things? Or is the other way also there, where you're allowing the developers to dictate every decision? Or is there a way we can be able to work together? So we are going to be hearing from David, who works at Safaricom as UI UX designer, and hear about the topic. Now, if you have any questions, I will encourage you to post them on the chat. But also, at the end of this, we're going to have a Q&A discussion where anyone who would like to contribute to the topic, is going to be an open mic session where we can all talk about our own experiences and contributions to what Monique will have presented. So basically, Monique will basically set it up, but I would hope, because we have about an hour of time, that we will be able to discuss, have discussions and contributions from different people, so we can be able to get a lot of flavors of how this problem can be solved. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Monique. If you have a presentation, you're welcome. I can keep this on, or like not, so I can stop sharing the screen. But I welcome you to proceed.
Oh, great, great, great. Can you guys see me and can you hear me?
We sure can.
Yes.
Good. Let me present my screen, or share screen for that matter. Do you have the right to share screen? Where do I share this screen? Okay, I can see it. Cool, cool, cool. 1 second. Desktop. No, desktop 1. Share. Okay. Just put this on the side.
You're basically becoming the exact meme that, I don't know whether you guys have seen the meme, that I'm now sharing my screen. Can you see it? That's really cool.
Good. Hopefully now you guys can see my screen. Can you see it now? Can you just confirm?
Yes, yes, we can.
Yes. Great. A quick intro. My name is Monique. I like it when it's Monique, David. I work with Safaricom. I like saying that I'm fascinated at the intersection of business and design, because design is all about business. And I always say also that all successful business have a strong appreciation of design. So whether you're talking about the tech giants like Google, Apple, Facebook, all the new startup that you've come to like, if you double click them, you'll see that they have a decent appreciation of design. So I'm really passionate about imagining and designing value that transforms lives. Of course, I'm excited about many other things like brand development, photography. By the way, I'm a self-taught photographer, self-taught filmmaker. So I'm in that creative space. And of course, even coming to design. So that's a little bit about myself. But one of the things also that excites me is also that we are living in a very interesting time. Interesting because we are seeing a lot of excitement about product design, UI, UX design. So I think we're getting a table we're getting a seat in the big table. We're getting a seat at the big tables, and I think the little work we need to do, or the major work we need to do, is to show incredible value. And I'll be Gary V today and say and declare some prophecy that very soon we'll be able to see. You see the way we see CFOs, chief finance officers, because finance is important to business, or chief HR officers because HR and people is important to business. Very soon we'll be seeing chief design officers, CDOs or something, because design will be that thing that every serious person or every serious tech company needs to be the boardroom, okay? So I think the owners are on us to make sure that we deliver that. So why I think that sets the stage of why we need to have this conversation. So when we think about UX designers and developers working together, I think the purpose of this conversation today is we're trying to look at how do we work together? How do we work together with developers? And how do we get our work done? Because that's an ingredient that we need to actually double click on it. And how does then our work create impact? Okay. So if we think around, then we will appreciate that there's a lot of, there's a few moving bits or pieces that we need to keep tabs with. When they're talking about stakeholders, and stakeholders in this bit, we have a lot of human elements into it. Engineers, designers, developers, and also the things that we need to do, like how do we pull data? Because someone said design without research or without data is all assumption, okay? So I think we need to keep on bouncing some of these things. And I like that bit you're talking about talking about research, because research is so critical to UX design, because then is when you're able to validate some of these assumptions. Okay. But before we get there, in 3000 BC, that's a while back, eh? Yes, in 3000 BC, there are some guys who came together and said, you know what? Let's build a city. Let's build a city. Let's build a tower that reaches heaven. And they came together and they put up bricks and started constructing. The most fascinating thing is that the author of that story says God himself came down to see it, you know, and he said, if these guys are speaking the same language, it means nothing they plan to do will be possible for them. Can you imagine God testifying about you? That you gave if you decide to do this, no one can be able to stop you. And I think we can borrow a big lesson there, that if people are talking the same language and they have a common goal, then what they're able to do is spectacular. We can't even funnel. So if we're able to work together as designers and developers, then I think what we're able to do is incredible, is out of this world. And I believe that is what most organizations are looking for, whether it is a tech startup or huge organization, or even, you know, so our joint working together of developers and designers, because we do very fantastic design, but if we are not able to bring them alive in terms of code and functionality, then they remain just as good as static stuff. So I think we always need to work together closely with designers. So let's try to answer the 3 questions. So I think we need to also then for us to be able to answer those questions, then we need to look at people. And when we talk about people, we need to then to look about craft, method, processes, because these 3 things are intertwined together, and then determine how far we're able to do as designers and developers. We need to look at tools. We need to look at governance. We need to look at workflows. We need to speak the same language. Again, I think from my story of what we have said, I think that we need to start having the same language. And having the same language is important. When you call it a button, the other guy appreciates the button or it's a card. Okay. When they talk about a form field, are they think it's a form field or it's a search button, a search bar? So things to do with documents, I think we need to see how we work together there. Tools, I'm liking that most product development space now are using Agile, and Agile is becoming a good way of working together. So ceremonies like sprint planning, sprint review, daily stand-up, doing retro, they have become really common. They've been like, you know, really. I think almost every other organization, that's the space they are in. So the more we talk together, talk the same language, then the better we're able to deliver for businesses. Moving forward, I think, and of course, there are many methodologies, and I don't want to get into methodologies because I think methods, it depends on what works for you. But what I want to reiterate here is that we need to be in that space where we are using the same either whatever tool or methodology used, then that's what we are using, because then there'll be less disconnect and less frictions, and people are able to work together. The other bit I think that we need to think closely is there are some people who say UX is not really meant well for design, you know. But I think in my experience, Agile and UX need to work. UX need to operate in Agile, because I think you're working separately together, then like what Anthony was saying, you just design, then dump your design to developers. There'll be a lot of disconnect. I think we also need to be cognizant that of the technical constraints, because developers need to bring this design to life. So what I've seen working personally and within the organization that I work is that design always needs to be a sprint ahead of the development. So what I mean by that is that whatever feature that the developers are working now, the designers already done it in the last sprint. And whatever developers will be working in the next sprint, developers are working on it now, so that then there's no delay. They don't have to wait until, you don't have to wait for designers to finish so that developers can pick the designs. So always designers need to be ahead. And that's why I think we need to be more involved in the conversation with the business. We need to be very close to the product owners and product managers, so that then we're able to appreciate what are we working on next, and we start working on it before even developers are brought in the pictures. Otherwise, if you're working the same design is what developers are working on, then you find there'll be a friction, there'll be people just be, pushing forward, which is not really what we would want to do. The other pro tip I think I would want to share is that I think participation is key. You need to, I think actually the right word here is evangelizing UX. Evangelizing UX means that you need to have a lot of more of your stakeholder buy-in, whether these are product managers, whether these are product owners, whether they are Scrum Masters, whether they are actually developers themselves. Involve them as much as possible in your design process, whether that is user research. Let them be on the periphery taking notes or just observing, because then they're able to appreciate why we need to do what we are doing, and the depth and the insight that comes out of it is marvelous. They're able then even to be advocate or your ambassador. You're able to fight those battles with the big bosses that in those meetings you're not caught. Not in those meetings they're not caught. They just say, these guys, but we just need these things delivered. So they're able to tell the higher stakeholders, the reason why we need to delay on this is because we need to do X and Y. We need to get this, for instance, user research done because of, so you need to more of UX evangelizing, you become an evangelist, can you imagine? So again, and of course now looking at the process and making the process, people appreciate why we need to do some of these processes, because I know in many organizations, and this is a joke that always you find in the UX space, is that are we actually just doing UX or are we just doing UI? Because in most people's minds, they just want you to chonga those interfaces. Chonga, for the people who don't understand my French, is just craft those stuff, because that's the deliverable that most of the time we'll give. But before we get to that, then there's a lot that goes into it, whether you're talking about just appreciating the problem, empathizing and just appreciating the user pain points, and actually going to a place where you define them, and you can use many things to get there. Testing, and testing is whatever you need to test, whether it is, going back and validating some of those things that you started with. And of course, the beauty about all these things is that as designers, we're able then to bring some of this conversation to life very quickly by either maybe the sketches, paper prototypes. So someone is saying something? Give me a chance to even to adjust my light. Anyway, great. If it's not there, I think we can progress. So yes, so the beauty about UX design where we are is that then we're able to prototype and be able to ship something or show something that can be able to validate some of these assumptions as quickly. So, so that's why I encourage us designers to bring in developers and the team we're working in the edition session. And I personally believe if we are to make huge difference and make impact, I think we may need to bring more of our stakeholders to ideation sessions and brainstorming sessions. They're interesting. Someone said that good ideas come from everywhere. That guy who just keeps quiet, maybe the guy who will give us one of the best ideas. So ideation sessions are one of the best things that you can be able to do as a UX designer in the space that you work in. And having collaboration workshops, those workshops where you say, before we take on this feature, let's have a workshop just to brainstorm and see what we want to do, whether it makes sense to the customers, it makes sense for us. The tech guys will come and tell us the technical constraints or the better ways of doing it. I'll tell you, in the team that I worked in before the team I'm working on now, one of the things I enjoyed was sitting with the developers and asking ourselves, how do we handle this? How do we do this feature in terms of the execution or implementation? And at times, even developers will come with even dope ideas. You know, there are those guys who think developers don't have an eye for aesthetics or an eye for things. You'll be shocked by the way you bring them on the table. Some of them are multi-talented. They'll tell you, boss, I think we can try these things. Or you're struggling to get even simple things like icon and tell you, I think you can find some of these things here. So personally, from my own experience, I've gotten incredible value with just bouncing ideas with our developers and getting to a place where we agree on how we want to approach something. Because again, it doesn't make sense for us to design it, then it is not implemented. Or it takes forever for them to be able to execute. So small things, if a guy tells you Material UI has a better way of doing a date picker, and he's the one developing, and in the interface looks amazing, why would you give him something else, really? I mean, you're not a sadist to make sure that his life is hard. Eh? So really, I think my point here is we just need to have more of that. And I think the other things I would want to mention is then as we grow, it's going to get to a place where then we start having things where we define things better. We do an interesting documentation. We have standards. We optimize our processes. You know, we have even rules that govern. I like the bit about the design system, and I think that design system is another conversation that we can do another day, because then it means then we don't keep on repeating, creating different components, you know, then, or even how we do our things. Once we define them and do them, then it will ease the work rather than every other day figuring how do you design your whatever, whether that's an input field or something. So this can bring some interesting things in the conversation, and we'll be able to get there. The other thing is just to appreciate who do you need to work with? What are those rituals that we may want to adapt, or what are those things that we want to agree that these are the norms? And I think I've mentioned about design systems. The system is really dope. And if you have a way that you have agreed this is how you'll be approaching your designs or whatever feature you're onboarding or whichever application you want to build, it becomes easy. Things whether you agree on at what level will you be doing at least usability testing. It'll be it's a good idea. And again, just looking at working with others, some who may not even be in your production, your product development cycle. And I think at this point is when to get this point, you also ask yourself, do you need input from an external party, for instance? Because for instance, you may find, let's say things like user research. You may want to outsource stuff like, getting participants instead of, you stepping out of what you guys do mainly. You can also some of those roles and just know that then when you come to the real research or ask, looking at the participant and asking and engaging them, that's when you guys come in. So you can see how you're able to optimize some of these things. So I appreciate to get to a level where you do or you invest your time and effort where it matters most. I think that's what I would want to do. And of course, then, and when we're still there, I think it's good to also appreciate tools. And I know tools is another story for another day that I don't like going there. But whatever tools works for you, I think for me, what I see, tool is a tool. Whatever tools works for you guys, it's good. But I think the most important thing is being in the same script or being in the same page of, is this tool working for us? If that tool is working for you and how you are shake with your developers, that's great. Number 3, or number whatever we are, demos are important. I think demos and presentations. I remember we're doing every other time. Remember, we are evangelists. We need to evangelize. Even your designs, while you're finished your design, how you present would make a difference whether they get a buy-in or not. So I think one of the key critical skills that as designers have to learn, fortunately or unfortunately, depending on whether you like talking to people or not, I think is presenting. So presenting, because you have to then give context of what you're trying to do. Some people would want you to appreciate how you approached the problem, how you define it. Others will even be keen to get as much details as possible. Others may not. So it is you as a designer evaluating who your audience is, and seeing whether how far do you want. But the pro tip here: be prepared as possible. It's better even to have some of these things in an appendix somewhere, so that if they say, what did the user say about this, or how did you get into this conclusion or decision, that info is there. It's not, you're not scratching your head and saying, hey, we never thought about that. So the best place is to be prepared as possible. And when you're showing, then they say show don't tell, because most people want to see why we got where we are. I think I've spoken about this. Whether in whatever you are in, do you need external, or do you need other help that is without you, or that what I mean by that you don't have? Do you need some help from someone who is not within the team, or are you able to do it internally? Whatever. So as I conclude, I had a few minutes, and I think my work was first to set stage, then we can have more conversation. It's good to be in a spot where we ask ourselves, how do we get our work done together? What do we need to organize? What structure would work, or what team composition would work? How do we define roles? How do we collaborate? Are we using Teams, or is it Meetup? Is it whatever? Is it Mural? Or are you gathering people together? If COVID regulation has been eased, are you able to bring people together and let's people wherever? But I think still on there, I think the other bit is just appreciating that you work with human beings, and we just need to be cognizant of that. And I think UX designers, we a lot is demanded from us, because then also people skills is something that we have to keep on being in that spot. How we get it done, where that is on which playbook we are using, whether it's design systems, whether it's our style guides, or what are our guiding principles, what are those consistent tool sets that we need to use? How do we harmonize, just to make sure that if we're working on, let's say, an app, and one guy is working on the other one, there's some element of standardization and consistency. Because you can imagine, if everyone is as that open field bit for creativity, and we can be creative, then how do we harmonize that? Then that whole thing is working properly. Coming to then, as we have more engagement with the developers, we'll get to a place where then we're able to together be able to prioritize and say, if we handle this now, this will be a challenge or not be a challenge. How do we decide what do we pick first? How do we decide what get allocated, what get allocated to who and what? I think that's a good space to be in. And lastly, how do we create work that creates impact? I think it's important to have metrics. How do we know we are getting there? I think nowadays I'm hearing something very fancy, and even our organization has adopted OKRs, objective key results. So how do you know we have gotten there? And being in that space where we are defining the definition of done. Because again, also in the product development space, you can keep on working on something forever, so defining the done, defining what is good and what is ready to be shipped is a good space to be. Then the other bits, socializing is all what I'm talking about, evangelizing. We have to keep on sharing our success stories out there. We need to keep on making sure that our work is being seen and it's being felt within organizations, and people are able to actually appreciate why we need UX designers and why you need to be paid. I hear some of you guys are paid a lot of money. Why we need to be paying these guys a lot of money. So I I think that always need to be seen so that then we're able to get there. And, and of course, more things like scaling, making sure that guys are getting skilled. Remember, someone told me that what you learn in education is the only investment that cannot be taken away from you. So if there's an opportunity to learn new skills, attend workshops like this where we are sharpening each other, then that is one of the dope things that you can do for yourself, you know, and also for your team, because if you have a team that is well prepared to handle more challenging tasks, you're in a better spot. You'll not be lifting every little thing. Even when they say design a login page, you're a senior designer, you're just coming to design because the guys who are there cannot assist you. So it's a good spot to be. But I think the main important thing for us is to open this conversation. Let's hear you guys what you're doing in your own spaces, and let's have a conversation. Thank you so much for listening. Again, my name is Moneki, David. Let's engage. I'm on LinkedIn and David Moneki. Instagram, Mr. Moneki. See my other life of photography and stuff. But let's make sure that the seed that is available right now on the table, we are bringing in valuable contribution, so that's the only way we can maintain it. Otherwise, we'll be kicked out, another person will be rushing it. Thank you so much. Cheers.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Moniki, for the presentation. And that is really good. I think there's a bunch of questions in there. We're going to get facilitated by Michael for in this Q&A questions session. So Michael, take it away. You're currently muted, the bane of every person on the call.
So should I ask that question? Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Sawa.
Yes,
so we have plenty of questions for you, David. Thank you for your your session. So the first question is from actually Anthony. His question was, what is the best way of involving developers in the ideation session? I think he's asking collab.
Great. Did you ask what's the best way of involving developers in ideation session? Is that the correct question?
Yes.
Good. So I would answer it two parts. Number one, there are things that when you look, depending on what you're working on, may not need developers at the first stage, because even them, they are not. It's a little bit green. And again, remembering on the principle of show don't tell. So we may work on something very simple, whether it is on grayscale or just sketches. Then you have a round table, and then you take them through depending on what you guys want to achieve and where you are. Then you ask yourself, what's the best way of doing what you want to do? So then that becomes the ideation session where you can hear their contribution. Very interesting that you've asked that question, because we had something similar yesterday. And the feature that we are working on, actually a developer is the one who came up with a proper way of doing it. The way I'd approached it would have been way longer and take longer than expected or needed. So the answer is, there's a time you'll just throw them into a meeting room and tell them, guys, okay, this is what you're working on. I want to get your feedback or input into it. And there are those sessions that you'd want to first start sketching something, okay? Whether it's a paper sketch or grayscale, just minimum. Something that if you're told now it can't work, you don't feel so painful, because you have spent a few nights there adjusting pixels and making your colors are popping. Then a guy has said, but it's not working. Eh? So I think you'll be disappointed more. So bring them as early as possible. And depending also again on how you are working, if you're working within Agile space, at times we used to do backlog refinement without developers, but most of this time we ask at least one senior developer to join our backlog refinement. Backlog refinement is just looking at what is on our backlog and what are we picking in the next sprint, so that even from that stage, they're able to give us some input. Yep.
Okay, cool. Thanks. I hope your question was answered, Tony.
Indeed, it was.
Yeah. So Maxwell Otieno is asking, how do you get buy-ins from different stakeholders on building a design system? I'm finding it hard. I'm finding it difficult to convince management on the impact of a harmonized design system. Any tips?
Good. One, design system may take a while before you can actually say you have a design system. It's a lot of work. So first, you may want to show them what you already have, and then come to the conversation about brand attribute, consistency. And you know, when the brand is not consistent, people lose value. People lose, sorry, I put a timer. People lose trust. For instance, if you saw an advert from Barclays, and you know right now, okay, Barclays, now they're called ABSA. If you saw ABSA ads, or let me use KCB. If you use KCB ad, and they have some red manenos on it, and you know KCB is green, that inconsistency already throws you off, because by the true story, there's a day I wanted to download an app, Sendy, and the only app I would see for Sendy is there were blue ones, and Sendy, as I know it out here, is yellow-orange brand. So I didn't download because I was like, maybe these are scam, you know. So consistency for brand is critical, and it has an impact on business. So as a UX designer, then you need to bring them to that space by helping them see the inconsistencies, and those inconsistencies, what it has effect on the brand. Number two, it is everyone wants to manage what we call man hours. So if every other time you're doing a design, you're taking more time to design simple things like form fields, buttons, you know, check boxes, radio buttons, small things, small components. It doesn't work very well, because it means then you're spending 4 or 5 days or 10 days to do a design that could probably have done 3 days. So then the other 3 days, the other 2 days within the whatever, or with the other 3 days within the sprint, you're using it to do more resourceful work, like, you know, research or ideating or workshops. So when they see that, they appreciate that need and how they see the benefit, then they support you. The last tip I'll give you is you can do design system by bits. So once you do a good component, you save it as, I don't know whatever you are using, whether it's a component, so that then you can reuse it later. Then you keep on growing your design system to a level that one day you actually have an existing design system. So you don't pull out of work and say, now we are creating design system. You keep developing it pole until you have something at the end of the day.
Okay, cool. I hope that answers. There's actually a follow-up question on the same topic by Wangoi Karaoke. And she asked, is there an ideal time to build a design system? What kind of question should we be asking as we build the system?
So before I answer that, we all appreciate what's a design system. And there are many design systems by there on the public domains, whether you're talking about IBM, even Adobe, their design system is out there. Yeah, there are so many design systems out there that you can check around and see how they have approached it. So the best time to do your design system is as early as possible. Is today or not yesterday. The other thing you need to
just a bit.
Yes.
Yeah, can you explain to someone who doesn't know what is a design system, just briefly?
Okay. I think the best thing I can do, give me a second. I think I just need to pull one and I show you. I think showing again, principle of show not tell works better than whatever. So there's what we call, let's see, right is here, or I'll show something else. But anyway, what I'm trying to say is then a design system is basically what in the traditional agencies or whatever would call, or even still small companies will still, not even every company will have like a brand guidelines. So a design system is like a brand guidelines for digital products. Am I making sense? It defines your typography by colors, but now the system will go ahead to define some of these components that we use, whether they are, how do we create our buttons, how do we create, and of course, they love all the principles in it in terms of why we do the things we do. So I wanted to show us ours, but I don't know whether I'm supposed to do that. So, but I'll get you a design system that is online that I'm able to show you before we edit, before we whatever. Yeah. Is that okay? I think you can pick one more question, then I'll come back to show one more design, or to show an example of a design system.
So posted a link to material 3.
Sorry?
I spoke over Michael. I posted a link to material design 3 as one of the popular, material design is one of the popular design systems.
Ah, fantastic. Yeah, even Polaris have a very good design system. Thank you for sharing that. I saw that also sometimes back when we were thinking about a design system. Great. I think we can pick another one.
Okay, so the question was, before I interjected you, when is the best time to do a design system? That's what she asked.
Oh, I said as early as yesterday. So the moment you start building a design system, works best for you, because it means then you're winning. You're winning everything. Every time you're going ahead, you're winning. You're not thinking about every other time about small things like how do I do my search bar? It will be well defined. It will be aligned with your developers. Every time they see you or whatever, sometimes even they have component they just call, so it becomes an easy conversation. Back to Kentai.
All right. So Anthony had also a question. The question was, can you talk about conflict you have had with developers in the past? Have you managed to conflict with developers in the past? Have you managed, I think, to solve conflict?
Those ones normally are there. These ones you find there. So recently there's something we're doing, but I can't tell you because it's not out. And the developer approached it in the easiest way possible they can do it. Okay. Of course, they know the time we have, and we have been told we need this thing in the next 3 weeks. So they approached it in the easiest way that is possible. They scrubbed off most of they actually shared the architect and the developer to work together without me, and they came up with something that is really basic, like bare metal, like nigari nasonga lakini ina vitu, they were like, guys, I think we need to balance between technical constraints and user needs. We need to drive a sweet spot there. So what I did first was kidogo siasa kidogo. So I had a session with my product owner, product manager, and a few guys. We spoke. What do you envision when you're trying to build this portal? Then we had a chat. Then we now have called a bigger meeting with the developers. Then asked them, guys, so this is what we had envisioned, and this is what you guys had envisioned. How do we get in a middle ground? And it was a 2-hour session that was interesting. And at the end of the day, they also appreciated that this bare metal, you hear buzzwords of MVP. MVP must need to be able to meet the need. And I think the bare metal was not even meeting the need. I think I even have said it was a carry that I think it didn't have a steering or something, because it was really very bare. So we had conversations that then brought together an amicable place. We stripped off, even me had to add concessions in terms of allowing some of the features that design not to go, so that then we can meet in the middle, so that we have a product that meets the need. Then we can say these are things we'll add them later as features. We'll keep on reiterating them. Yeah. So conflicts comes, but how we resolve them is very important. So that then at least people feel also them their views have been heard.
Okay, cool. The other question is, during feature development, how do you draw the line on which features should be approached from a point of development ease and which features should be built from ground up?
Sorry,
Apologies
come
for
again. I
that.
think I've not understood that.
I can speak briefly on that, on the question. So the question, ideally, you've already touched upon, on basically choosing when to draw the line between technical constraints and user needs.
Sure.
Yes, so you've already talked about that in the previous question, and thank you for the insightful feedback on that.
Great.
Okay, cool. So there's a new one from KNJ here. And he's asking, so he started by saying, I am a graphic designer plotting a career shift to UI UX designer. Just started a Google certified course on Coursera as the first step. Good. Question, do local companies distinguish between the two, UI/UX, or getting into the industry, I need to learn as much of the design execution part as the user experience and research part? I didn't fully get that. Not fully.
Who asked it? Let me, I can check from you.
It's called KNJ here. But I think he's
probably
asking.
Kay can also probably like clarify what what they mean.
So Kay, you can unmute yourself and you can expound more. While we are waiting for him to respond, there was a question here, a similar one. So Samuel Wangura had asked, what would be a good starting point for a graphic designer looking to transition into UI/UX? How's the learning curve? And are there any resources you'd recommend? So I had partially answered and I sent some resources, but I think you can add in something.
Good. I think what I'll say, if you're a graphic designer first, you have done the heavy lifting for visual design, which is what people consider as or call in other terms as UI. So kudos to that you're a graphic designer. You appreciate more things like typography, working with text, images, spacing, and all these other things, that layouts are things that we all have to learn as UX designers. The bit you need to learn is the bit about business, the business side of things, a bit of psychology, because UX designers also, if you think like interaction design, there's a lot to think through about how you interact, why people make some decisions, and how do you guide a user from one stage to another. So a bit of interactions design need that. Of course, also throw in things like copywriting, just to that your copy and micro copy makes sense. It guides the user. So it's a mix of many things. Then also learning how to do research, user research. So what I would say is you're in a good spot. There's tons and tons of information there on the internet, whether you think about YouTube or Google. I also subscribe to Medium. They have dope content, and the beauty about Medium is that it's content that is curated already and does not have advertisement, because advertisement can be very distracting. So I think it's there for takers. Actually, most designers are self-taught, so don't feel inadequate. And the moment you're able to show value, people will give you job or work depending on what you want to do in your life.
Yeah, thanks.
Probably something I would add there, just as a small addition, is that it seems like I was listening to you, and I think it's spot on what you said, Monique. It's exactly what needs to be done. But I think from a beginner's point of view, they'll think, "Oh my God, that's so much that I need to learn." And so, no, don't really apologize, because it's true. That you need to learn all of those things. But I think one of the things that I've learned is first start off with what you are, the strengths that you have, maximize on them as you try to fill up some of your weaknesses. So involving yourself in meetups like this is filling some of your weaknesses, but also try to volunteer and like using the strengths you have, volunteer in the open source projects, internships, and so on, to be able to build practical knowledge. Because again, even all of us, I believe all of us here, even the very experienced ones, do not have perfect knowledge of all of those things, and we are still all growing, but yet we are able to land a job because we were at least sufficient in a number of those core skills. Probably I don't know whether you want to add anything to anyone who would say, oh my God, that's so much. Like, what do I do?
Yeah, so I also wanted to add, there are plenty, I think a handful of free UX design courses out there. So, and I'd advise you to take one, at least one, because there are things, they go into detail. There are certain things are not there in the tutorials you'd get online, like how to test accessibility and all that, design system and all that. So I'll try to link one that I've done on the Google Docs. And yeah, that's all. So I also wanted to add, the best place to start is online, because I don't think in Kenya there's any university teaching UX, unless I'm wrong, or any college. So the only option is to do it online, or at least have one certificate. Still on the same question, somebody asked, that's Linda Wairimu, do I need to have a coding background to get a UX job in Kenya? I can answer that. You don't need, but you guys can expound.
Yeah, I think Michael have done the right thing. Yeah, you don't need. However, it helps to have or to appreciate the whole HTML, CSS, JavaScript conversation. Not because you'll be needed to code, but I think it makes it easier when you are designing and having conversations with developers. Remember, one of the pillars of UX design is empathy. So you'll be able to empathize with them, and so when you're designing some of those flying things, then they tell you, but to execute them these things, the challenge they might face, then you're able to work with them. But the straight answer is no, you don't need to be a developer, or you don't need to code to be a designer.
Mwaniki.
Yes.
This is Sam Ofula.
Yes, Sam.
Just to add something there.
Yes.
Okay, I think you need to have particularly the front-end knowledge to be a designer, because you are in a scenario you are working with the back-end developers only implementing UI. And then they tell you we cannot add this hover, this color, or this icon.
Yes.
Yeah, and then depending also with the company size, because some organizations are startups and some are big. Yeah, and I've also posted my questions. I would like you to answer, like dealing with law governed projects, particularly the government projects, your experience, and what is the best advice you can give us as UI UX.
So before you, okay.
Sorry, let me build on top of that for a designer needing to know how to code. Sorry for the interruption, but sure. I think when you have a clear ways of working, it's not necessary. And I'll give this example. For that example that was given for when you're working with backend developers, it's the same as working with the front-end developers. And when you have grooming, or when you're starting the project, the first time where you get these requirements, either it's a business requirement or it's a user requirement. Because remember, okay, I think I'll just give an example of how we work. When you're doing UI, that's the same time the backend team is working on the backend system. Because when we now do planning, most of the time we are the backend team, the system architecture team, and the UX team are one sprint ahead of the front-end developers in a normal code. So this ensures the continuous delivery. And the moment that you're having this conversation from way back from the start, you are able to know, and they're able to tell you the limitations. So yeah, it's very good and okay to to know how to code or the tech stack, but it's not really necessary as long as you have a nice way of working, a proper way, streamlined way of working. Sorry.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Alex.
agree
By the
with
way,
you.
you need to follow Alex. Alex is a serious guy. Eh? Alex is, I've learned a lot from Alex. He's a serious guy. Cheers. Back to you, Michael.
Yeah, actually, I wanted to add, I think the guy asked, do you need? So what I think he's asking is, for you to get a job, do you need to know how to code? Of course, knowing how to code is good and it's an added advantage. But if you're beginning, if you're starting, you're equally good if you just know how to design and doing research and all that. The back end, you can, those front end, you can learn later, but it's not really a requirement. And then someone is asking, Mark, how do you protect your work from being reproduced or recreated by others after a demo? So you've done
Michael.
a demo, you've done a, yeah? Yes.
Yeah, maybe before you go to the next question, I'm Charles. Yeah, I work alongside with David Mwaniki. He's provided, he's done marvelous work in our digital code. So I thanks team for bringing out the element of human interactive design in your concepts of presentation. My question is, the reason why maybe somebody would require some knowledge around it, it may not be put as a necessary requirement, like a must requirement. Yeah, but the reason why is because every other time you want to explain something to the developers, and I'm sure you have seen this, David, there is always this part of prototyping. There are quite a number of things you do before even the developer take up the job, like the user-driven prototypes, whereby you are doing the role playing of you're doing the physical models, then you're doing the paper interfaces, the sketches, the diagrams. I think, David, I've seen you do a lot of these. And when you're doing all these prototyping, you are like visualizing how the development work will be done or how the design work will come out. So I think it's a good thing, and it play a very big role when you are doing the prototyping. Yeah, there are quite a number of things you do to visualize the models and also to have that user-driven prototypes. So that will really help if you have that kind of a knowledge of visualizing the bucket and also the UI. But it's not a must paper that you must have a paper to show that you have done UI UX. But is good knowledge because of prototyping. Yeah, back to you, Michael.
All right, thank you. Just to add on that, one of the design process is at ideation, you do low fidelity wireframing, sometimes even sketching. At that point, if you're involving stakeholders like these, developers, they're able to flag if this is possible or not. So I'm assuming you won't show the developer the end product without involving them. So if you involve them from the beginning, it's easier for them to be like, this one is hard for development and all that. So if you're not a developer. Anyway, there was also another question because of time. Someone asked, how do you protect your work from being reproduced or recreated by others after a demo? So you've designed, you've put it out there, and it's a dope idea. How do you protect yourself? Like, I think copyright or something.
Wow, I think unless I appreciate why they feel it can be reproduced and all the risk is, I think sometimes, and I see that a lot with the also photographers, fearing that their images will be stolen and our designers will be copied. I'm not sure whether that risk is there unless or imagined, but unless someone tells us why they feel there's a huge risk for them it to be stolen, I don't know. I think for me, I'm not sure, but unless they explain a little bit more further.
Probably a question a further question here, and are they referring to someone reproducing it within the organization, that someone has reproduced it within the organization or externally? Because if it's within the organization, then you probably need to organize yourselves better. If you're having those kinds of conflicts where someone is going to copy your work and in a malicious way, but at the same time, I suspect that there's a lot of collaboration happening. If you're talking about within the team, people copying within the team, I think the design system is usually shared across the team. When you create something, it's used by everyone. So again, I also am not sure what the question, the confines of the question, but I suspect that externally the company should be able to pursue legal action, but internally you should actually be encouraging people to copy your work, because again, that's the way, unless I'm wrong, it feels like it's the way that you build on one another's efforts. But as long as there's good faith, I guess, is the caveat I put to that.
Actually, to top what Tony you said, I think for me, where I've reached even with my photography, please still, it's better it is used out there than when it's sitting there. It's better your design has been copied and is used out there than it's sitting on your machine. In any case, if you think about it, all these big companies you're talking about, they have been giving us so much free stuff, and that's why the open source community is growing. So I don't think where we are, we should be feeling pain that you've designed something and someone has stolen it. I'll be very happy to see some of the things I've designed, they're being used all over. We'll be like, yeah, that was, yeah, anyway. Mike, go back to you.
Yeah, but if you want to do it legally, maybe it's a concern. There's a body called KECOBO, Kenya Copyright Board. It's somewhere, I think you can search on the website and you can copyright your work. At the moment it's free. So you can go there, upload your prototypes and all that. But in addition to that, if you're trying to build your portfolio, then you have to put your work out there and people have to see it. So if you go on Dribbble, Behance, plenty of great work that's posted there. So there's little you can do to that, but if you want to do it legally, there's that option. You can go and trademark it or copyright it. So someone asked here, how do you all handle the user research part without giving your competition the ideas you are working on? And then someone had asked, this is Ariga, what is the best way to start in UI UX? Can I start as a UX researcher before getting into UX design? What of the two is heavyweight, UXR or UXD? Users experience research or users experience design? So we have two questions about UX research.
Okay.
So someone is asking, which one should they start with, the research or the design? Like, which one do they feel is better for them? Or which one is more heavy?
The answer to that, I would not think about which one is heavy or light. The answer to that, I think for me, I would approach it is where do you feel you come alive more? Because remember, guys, UX field is huge, yeah? And depending on the organization that you're working with, you may find you're doing many roles within UX, and the organization where those roles are handled differently by different people. So what I mean by that is that you may work in an organization where, as a UX designer, you do the research, you do the visual design, the UI bit, you're doing the copy, you're doing testing, every other things, prototyping, everything. And the organization where you find all these roles, they have someone handling it. So what I would say is, what are low-hanging fruits for you? If it is design and that's where you come alive, please go. If it is research, go. Because we're getting to a spot where you can actually just specialize on research alone and you'll earn your money. But again, and also you'll grow depending on how you feel, whether you want to have a wider breadth of knowledge, or you want to go deeper on one. But they're saying currently most well-paid people are with T-shaped. So you have one that is deeper and a broad over. So you definitely need to learn a bit of every other thing but you need to have one core. That is whether you use design in terms of UI or core as research. But at the end of the day, you need to have a T bit for every other thing that is important in the product development space. So maybe you want to
for me, that's perfect. I don't think there's one better than the other. If you're asking in terms of pay, that will depend on you, how you ask. So I see Miriam has raised her hand.
Yes,
so Miriam, if you'd like to ask.
Yes, I have a contribution to that. From my experience, especially on the Kenyan market, the truth is you lead with your work. So, for example, you might be a fantastic researcher and your visual design skills are horrible. So usually, as many companies don't have budgets for only research, I would recommend learning visual skills first, because people see before they think. So for me, I would recommend make sure that you have quality work in terms of visuals. Then as a starting point, especially when you're beginning out with a career and you don't have big networks, because no one is going to, especially, for example, startups that don't have huge budgets, you need some sort of evidence that despite your research, your visual design skills, you're going to produce quality work, and you will not have discussions if your visual design skills are horrible. Yeah.
Thank you, Miriam. I see we only have 5 minutes left. So should we answer one more question? So let me ask, and then you can answer it very briefly. How do you handle all the user research, but without giving your competition the ideas you're working on? I don't know how they would know.
Okay. So that's a whatever. Anyway, but I think what I'll say is, like, for instance, as we use a third party to recruit participants, okay? So that is one way we can do it, where you use that party agencies to recruit participants. But again, I think also we overestimate copying. I think for someone to copy your work, it's very rare for them if they just have only one piece. For you to copy something, you need to have and even apart from that, execution still is king. That's why people see nowadays ideas are all over, man. Execution is what makes the difference. Yeah, we can all see content king, and we say the next big thing is creating a Udemy. But how many people will execute the way Udemy have done it? So really, yeah.
Thanks. I agree on that. Execution, idea is one, but execution is everything. I think we'll wrap it up for today on questions. I had a particular question about this session. How are you guys finding the use of the Google Doc sheet? Because this is a user's experience, and I'd like to hear your experience. Are you guys finding it easy to add in your links? Because we are 80 participants, and I don't think we have 80 names here. Is it easier? Should we suggest another easier way? Is there a way we can improve? So if there's anyone with feedback, we have like 3 minutes.
The other question will be for you, Michael. If someone has ever done it, do they need to do every other time they come? Or, because maybe some of us are like, we did it, we need to do it
again. That's a good question.
Probably I can mention it here. Okay, Michael, go ahead. I don't want to cut you off. Your idea.
Go ahead. Yeah. I wanted to say, so for the next session, we'll use the same Google Doc. So if you've already added, you don't have to. Your name will still be there. Yeah. Is that a good idea?
Yes, I actually like it, and I would actually probably mention the reason why we add it is because I'm sure there are a bunch of people who it's the first time they are coming to the meetup, and they'll probably want to connect with some of the oldies. Because, like, I'm sure you, Moneki, you've attended from the very first. People would want to connect with you, but if they can't find your link, there's no way for them to connect with you. So the answer to the initial question from Moneki is yes, but now with Michael's response, then I would say you don't have to add it another time. Once, please add it today. You probably won't need to add it in the future. But if we change the way, we probably would need to add. But I think it's useful to, as a way of new guys getting to interact with even old guys and connecting.
Oh yeah, cool. I'm typing it now. Then let me type it. Let me obey.
Yes, we're using Google Docs because previously we tried FigJam and we had some issues here and there. And we were like, hey, why not just use the most simplest, minimal way? And I'm happy it's working out. So, but I'd like to hear, is it easy? Users feedback. So we have 1 minute. Tony, Anthony, now you can wrap up.
All right, so I'd like to close the meetup, but before we do, I just want to mention to every one of us that we are going to be having the next meetup on, just share my screen, just as the memes go. We're going to be having our next meetup on the 9th of March. That's next month. It's always going to be on the second Wednesday of the new month. So I welcome you to come. If you're not connected to me or Michael or Vivian, please connect with me because you may miss the next one. Because that's the way we normally propagate it. Again, other people may choose to share, but for sure, at least the people who have been like actively helping to organize it are definitely going to share. So if you don't want to miss the next one, please connect, like send me a request on LinkedIn, send Michael or Vivian a request on LinkedIn, and actually also Gertrude a request on LinkedIn if you want to know what's happening next time. Again, thank you so much to everyone who attended the meetup. It is so awesome to see all of you and the active participation we've had. Thank you so much, Moneki, for your contribution. It's been quite insightful. Asanteni sana. If you missed part of this meetup or would like to rewatch it, it's going to be on our YouTube channel, UI UX Nairobi. Just look for it. You're going to find it. And I guess with that, we can end it at this point. Thank you all for attending. Enjoy the month. See you next month, guys.
Anthony.
Catch you later. Yay.
Guys asking, but there's no fellowship after serious meetup and you buy guys drinks. How that drinks budget?
That would actually be a really nice idea. If you guys are, again, I think we can organize it in the coming meetups. That's a really cool idea. Yeah. So let me end it here. Thank you guys. I really appreciate you coming in.